but we're here tonight to talk about the hot trend of expedition cruising, which is my terminology really, because it's new to me, so therefore exciting and interesting. And we have two of our partners from Swan Hellenic here tonight, Kelly Prednesky and Jane Wilson. And we're just going to have a chit chat about expedition cruising and what it is, and share some of our recent experiences. I think some of you know that I was recently on a Swan Hellenic ship for 21 days, unexpectedly, which we'll talk about, but very enjoyable and wonderful experience. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. So I want to start, as we always do, with just a quick land acknowledgement. At JourneyWoman, you know, some of you might be new, and I'll talk about JourneyWoman in just a moment, but we do strive to be a place where all feel safe and welcome. And we are committed to creating the safest place possible with the intention of helping to unearth the true value of every person who joins this community. We wish to acknowledge the land we are standing on today as the traditional territory of many nations, and we want to acknowledge and thank the first peoples of this territory and other Indigenous peoples for sharing this land with us so that we can continue our work today. So for those of you who might be new to JourneyWoman, we are actually celebrating our 30th anniversary next year in 2024. JourneyWoman was started in 1994 by Evelyn Hannon, and I know we have a lot of loyal JourneyWoman readers that have been with us this whole entire time. I took JourneyWoman over 4 years ago, just before the pandemic, and it has been a privilege and an honor every day to be talking with women about travel and the role that it plays in our lives. We wanted to do this webinar today, and I'm going to put our guests on spotlight in just a second, but we wanted to do this webinar today to talk about expedition cruising. And as I mentioned, I was recently on a trip with Swan Hellenic in October and had such a great experience. We thought it would be fun to share it with you and answer your questions, because it is quite different from other types of cruising. And you know, at JourneyWoman, we are always thinking about sustainable travel. And for me, it's a really important part of what we do at JourneyWoman. And so Swan Hellenic is actually the founding partner of our small ships section in our women's travel directory. And if you haven't visited our women's travel directory, please do. It's right on the JourneyWoman website. And we've got hundreds of travel experiences for women in it that we have curated and vetted, and companies we have spoken to make sure they're safe and credible and legitimate. And I really encourage you to take a look through there. There are retreats, there are tours, there are safe places to stay, and we're trying to build it. So one of the things you can do to help us build it is, if you stay somewhere, please submit it to the directory, and we upload all of the listings so that it's searchable and women can look for a safe place to stay. And you can also do reviews on the tour companies that are listed in our directory, because they also want your feedback to improve their services. So tonight, I am joined, as I said, with Kelly and Jane, and I'm going to ask each of you to introduce yourself while I figure out how to put us on spotlight.
Jane, I'll let you go first.
Oh, thank you, Kelly. Well, hi, everyone. It's really lovely to be here, and my role with Swan Hellenic is as an operations manager, and that means I'm more on the logistical side of the expedition itineraries and staffing and what have you. And my background is very much as a scientist. I was a scientist in Antarctica, south of Australia, for many years, and that led me to expedition cruising. I became a boat driver and a guide, and eventually an expedition leader. I was only going to do it for a few months, and that was last century. So it's a very exciting industry with lots of possibilities and great things to explore, both as someone like myself working, as well as enjoying that with our guests on board.
And I'm Kelly. I'm super excited to be joining all of you tonight. Let's see, I grew up in right outside Detroit, Michigan, and I found myself working in the travel industry after I got a degree in art history, because I really had no idea what I wanted to do with my life. And I became a travel agent when I was 23 years old. So I've been working for various companies in various parts of the travel industry, which has been quite extraordinary because it's so lucky to be working in such an exciting exciting field. But to me, I joined Swan Hellenic at the end of February because um there is no more exciting industry right now than expedition cruising. It's truly making like such far off corners of the world more accessible. And it's a whole new travel style that has just opened my eyes and brought me a feeling in my own travels that I've never gotten to experience before. So it's been a short, like 9 months, but filled with excitement.
Well, why don't we segue, Kelly, right into what is it and what makes it different from, ocean liners or those kinds of ships that we might think of?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a good question because, of course, we're on a boat on water. So can't really avoid the word cruise. But an expedition is a whole other animal. I mean, this really, going out on a Zodiac is like a military grade inflatable boat that holds 10 to 14 people. The first time I stepped on a Zodiac in Svalbard in the Arctic on my very first polar expedition, I never had that feeling before. Like, this is a serious adventure and anything is possible. And there's an element of risk that you are aware of, but I still feel very safe because our teams do everything to keep all of our guests safe and secure. But to be out there, like in nature on that level, you don't get that like with any other mode of travel. And that's part of expedition. I think the learning component is a big differentiator between, a regular cruise and an expedition, because you have access to some incredible experts that are part of the core expedition team. Normally, we have about 12 expedition leaders on board, and they're guiding you every step of the way. And the core team, they're marine biologists, professional photographers, ornithologists, naturalists, historians, and you have access to them at pretty much all hours of the day. Talking with them at happy hour, having meals with them, and to just be able to hear their stories and their experiences and their continued knowledge in over a meal. You don't get that in many travel styles. And then I think the other big component is the size. Our ships are very small, less than 200 people on board. So we really foster a community on board. We really become a family. Especially the moment you step foot in a Zodiac with 9 other strangers, you come back friends because you just shared this extraordinary experience together. And you become bonded very quickly, I think, in this type of environment.
Jane, anything to add?
Yeah,
I say it all. I feel like she said it all.
Yeah, and I was thinking that there's 3 elements. There's the ship, which is like this wonderful floating boutique hotel, so very comfortable and very safe. The designs are technical, they're incredible. They're really, our ships are really tough for polar conditions, so ice navigation. So the ship, the size, the shallow draft, so there's not too much ship underwater, which means the ship can navigate into all sorts of areas, whether it's with sea ice or near coral or basically all sorts of nooks and crannies that big ships can't go to. And then, of course, the secret weapon is the Zodiac. So we can be very self-reliant. So that's sort of the technical part of it, I guess. Then for me, what comes next is the destinations. Like we can go anywhere in the Indian Ocean, Aldabra Atoll, the South Pacific, Vanuatu, Antarctica, the Arctic, so the Atlantic Ocean. We've just been to Tristan da Cunha, which is got basically it's meant to be the most remote inhabited island in the world. So we can go to those places. We've got beautiful food, comfortable accommodation. You your passport gets put away. So even if we go to some wild cross-cultural destinations like West Africa or Brazil, you go ashore and you're pretty safe because you're with local tour operators or the expedition team. And, you know, and then you come back maybe hot, dirty or cold or whatever, and you just go, oh. So it's a safe sort of soft adventure, and the destinations are either remote or culturally really exciting, because they're usually places even backpackers can't get to in some instances. Although, you know, we do also mix that a little bit with say the Mediterranean and some more sort of soft places. But the third dimension is something Kelly touched on, and that's the educational component. Like, yeah, with the expedition team, and like myself when I was an expedition leader, I worked really closely with the captain to squeeze every last thing that we can. Whatever the weather or the wildlife does, we work around it to make sure your time on board is unique, and we squeeze everything we can as far as what's possible. And then the icing on the cake is the educational presentations, whether they're formal on board or informal on the beach or over a glass of wine. And, you know, the whole thing is about expecting, you know, the unexpected and taking advantage of that, as well as having a sort of rough guideline itinerary. But I think also on top of that, it's fun, because we're all there for the same reason, the captains and the crew included. We all want to see these places as well. And certainly the team of guides, you know, they have got an incredible amount of both logistical skill and knowledge to bring the destination and the itinerary to life.
Yeah. And so, Kelly, you talked a minute ago about the size of the ships, and I want to touch on sustainability, because for me, this is such an important thing for us to consider as women and as travelers. These boats are brand new. Like the SH Diana that I was on, and Swan Hellenic only has 3 at this point, but that was just put into the water in April of this year. I mean, it's virtually, I don't know if it's the newest, but it's certainly.
It was launched in Amsterdam, in fact. So yeah, and it's as well as the new technology, especially for navigating in polar regions. It's you know, it's the size and the sort of unpretentious elegance. And this is kind of my feeling. And, you know, I've worked on, I don't know, probably 30 or so ships over my career. And, you know, in the early days, they were a bit wilder, and they were sort of almost like Russian rust buckets. And that's where the industry began. But now, oh my goodness, how pleasant to be on board these Swan Hellenic vessels. It's just they've got a real ease about them, and that's what's drawn me as well, as someone who works in the industry.
Yeah, and not to worry, we're going to show some photos in just a second of some of the rooms. And I even went into the engine room and met with the engineers and saw where everything happens kind of behind the scenes, which was really fascinating.
And and you know, there's sort of activities that go with it too, you know, as well as the destination. So in the tropics, we'll run safe snorkeling programs with, you know, people who are dive masters. We don't dive, but we snorkel, or kayaking if the weather's good, and you know, citizen science programs. So we add a whole lot of other activities as well as the educational component.
Great. Kelly, anything you wanted to say there?
Yeah, I would just add on, like, because the ships are so new, they are really built for the future. Like way beyond any requirements that we are required to meet. We're thinking way beyond what the requirements are, whether it's, you know, our ships are built for emission-free silent sailing. So we have built it, even though the technology is not quite there yet. So what we're waiting on the technology to actually catch up with us, so that we can use battery packs to have emission-free silent sailing. So when that technology catches up, we're already for the future. We have incredibly advanced wastewater treatment, basically plant on board, which is insane. Even down to the paint that they use on the hull, everything is focused on the environment and taking care of these places that we're going to. But I think it's more than just the technical specifications. you know, when even by traveling to these places, you learn about the sustainability needed in your own community that is affecting these places so far away from home. Like, that is one of the huge reasons to travel to these places right now, so you can see it for yourself and learn about.
Yeah, I was going to say too, like when you understand that the water that the boat is desalinating all the water and treating all the water, it makes you think differently about how long you're in the shower and, you know, all the things that you're doing. And that kind of, for me, lasts to when I come home too, because it's kind of a behavior that stays with you a little bit.
And all the, you know, reduction of single-use plastics, and we're pretty well paperless and all those sorts of things as well. And trying to look at, you know, certainly when it comes to fish, sourcing the right kind of fish, not, you know, fish that's been overfished. So, you know, there's lots of behind the scenes things like that. And, you know, when we do go to these remote communities, we ask them, what do you need from tourism to make it positive? You know, they don't want us going ashore and giving their kids money. They want us to maybe present medical supplies or something. So we always do it in a way that's a bit of a two-way sort of, I guess, experience, and something that is appropriate, not sort of putting our values on communities that are very different to ours.
Yeah. Jane, you talked a little bit about some of the places that you've been to. What are your favorite places? You know, when you think of where's the best place to go on an expedition ship?
Yes, well, I mean, I think Antarctic is the heartbeat, and certainly the Antarctic Peninsula. And if you can afford maybe nearly 3 weeks, you adding the subantarctic island of South Georgia, and that's because the South American continent's so far south, and it's relatively close to the Antarctic continent, and it's really, I mean, it's almost the only way to get there. So it's very compact, spectacular. And it really is the heartbeat, and it's where the industry sort of began. But if you think outside polar regions, it's anywhere there's islands. You know, like Indonesia has 17,500 islands, and a lot of them have got communities that don't go very far, and traditional cultures that are quite different to the sort of national identity of Indonesia. But I think one of the recent voyages that our company did that I think is fantastic is Madagascar and the southern part of the Seychelles, where you go to the World Heritage listed Aldabra Atoll and see the magnificent sort of marine life. And it's such a large atoll, fascinating sort of coral island formation and wonderful marine life and great sort of seabirds. And then you go to Madagascar with all the, you know, the variety of wildlife and the friendly people and the culture. And, you know, that's a wonderful combination. But it's endless. And certainly, I guess, sort of a couple of highlights for me would be having gone into the Ross Sea, where you sail as far south as any ship can sail. You're way down, like the Antarctic Peninsula, you're in the 60s degrees latitude. In the Ross Sea, which is where Scott and Shackleton spent a lot of their time in the early exploration towards the South Pole, and the huts are still there, and everything is huge on a scale when it comes to icebergs. It might take you a whole day to sail past an iceberg, so it's the biggest and the furthest south, and then you see you know, the wildlife that's down there. So, but that's a unique, and you need almost a month if you're going to go on one of those sorts of voyages. But perhaps a good example of expedition cruising was once when we were in New Guinea and Solomons and Vanuatu and all those island nations. Just great stuff, both in nature and culture. We were trying to land in Bougainville, which is between New Guinea and the Solomons, and there are all sorts of what would you say, like mini civil wars sort of breaking out, or tribal fights. So, you know, we're always well connected, so we can always go, okay, we're not going there. You know, we never put ourselves in harm's way just because it's in the brochure. If things change, you know, and this doesn't happen very often, but when it is, it's quite an adventure. And this particular time we went into an island in the north of Bougainville called Booker. No civilian vessel had been there. And this is only 10, 15 years ago, probably since before World War II. Because they've had all sorts of sort of political struggles which have settled down now. The president-elect of the new nation of Bougainville met us on the wharf, and I would say 3,000 or 4,000 people, and they're jet black, and they had hundreds of dancers, and we were just blown away. And I thought, that's expedition cruising at its absolute best.
Yeah,
So you know, that's on a grand scale, but you get it on a small scale. And I used to, especially these smaller cultural sort of experiences, I always used to, because, you know, more often than not these days, most people or most countries try and allow their citizens and communities to have some sort of rudimentary phones. And so I always say, if the locals are taking more photos of us than we are of them, that is the test of a fantastic expedition cultural stop.
Yeah. I was wondering too, like you talked about going to these places no one's been to. There must be places that have opened up, like, because tourism isn't all bad. Sometimes tourism can be very good for small places like this that don't have people coming to see them. It can help their economy. I mean, I experienced that in Socotra, where we were the first, you know, ship ever to be there.
Yeah, and I think it's about being very open-minded. And, you know, one of the things that I've always enjoyed doing is working with the local sort of community leaders. So if it's a really small village, ask the teacher or the mayor or the equivalent of the mayor, you know, what do you need and what's good for the community? And they're usually the ones that are responsible to sort of tell you, you know, we've run out of first aid supplies, or you know, it might not be, and you don't think, oh, we'll bring books and colouring pencils, because that might not be what they need. So it's always trying to give, you want the community when you come back to have a big smile on their face, because we've been friendly, we've been respectful, we've been cross-culturally aware, and we've given the community things that are important to them and that are not going to destroy, you know, like candies or money is sort of just a no-no. So yeah, so it's feeling your way a bit, but yeah, I mean, there's many opinions, but I don't know. I think it's a style of tourism that is responsible in that regard, and you know, we trailblazers and set the standards, and then when if other ships follow, that's what the communities demand. Say, well, don't do this when you come ashore here, please. And you know, like there was one community we went to quite a bit, and we got them some piping so they could just get some water down from a little lake up the top. I mean, really simple stuff, but I think generally positive, you know.
Yeah. I'm just wondering if women listening to this might wonder about accessibility and mobility, and, you know, how hard or easy is it to get on and off the Zodiacs, and can I go if I am in a wheelchair or need a mobility aid? Is this kind of travel accessible to everybody?
Well, pretty well. Like, you know, we've seen a wide variety. I mean, I think the oldest person I've sailed with is about 92, and you know, that you know, they're particularly good for their age. And then we have had a couple of people in wheelchairs. I think again, it comes down to attitude. We'll do everything to help somebody, but if people are particularly immobile, it's nice if they've got someone to help them a little bit, because we can't just help one person. But if people understand their limitations, there's plenty to do. You know, we've had people who come along and they see a lot from the ship and they're happy with that, or people who won't go out in rough weather, but they'll go out in fair weather. And there's always plenty of help. You know, I'd hate to put someone off, but on the other hand, we can't sort of dedicate one person just to helping one person either. So
I think also there's various levels kind of like to the expeditions that we have. Even the polar expeditions that we do, you do not have to be a professional mountain climber to go to Antarctica
yeah,
or the Arctic. Like, I'd say getting on and off a Zodiac, you kind of have to be able to swing your leg over the side, and they normally have a step there to help you. That's like the extent of it. But then when you're on land, I know when I was in the Arctic, the expedition team is very good at kind of taking an inventory of like, who are the guests that we have on board on this departure? And they would offer like a short, a medium, and a long hike. So if you just wanted to go on like a 500-meter slow stroll along the beach for the landing, there's an option for you. If you wanted to do a 5K, there's an option for you. So they really would kind of tailor the options to who our guests are that we have on board in those scenarios. But then I think also, like, not everyone is ready to go on a polar expedition. Maybe you're only just starting to travel internationally. Like, everyone's in a different place in terms of their travels. And a lot of people don't think of expedition cruising for a place like the British Isles or Ireland or the Greek islands. Like, we go to all of these incredible places, but we show you a different side from a different perspective, getting you into different places that you might not be able to go if you were going over land by yourself, or you certainly couldn't go if you were on a big cruise ship.
Yeah. Yeah,
and small ports. I mean, Greece is a good example, Kelly, because when we were in Greece with the Deanna, we were going to all these tiny little ports where you just walk off and it's all right there. And, as you say, the expedition team are quite creative, and the weather was nice and there's some beautiful cliffs. So they did a little Zodiac cruise in this beautiful weather, and that gives people a sense of, oh, that's what this expedition-y stuff, a little taste, so there's it's always creative, and there's always usually something a little extra offered that you don't expect.
Yeah, I actually liked, going to more industrial ports. I thought it was an interesting way to come into a city instead of kind of the glossy brand new port terminal. Like, you get to come in and you get to see what the city looks like really from its center, from I don't know, I thought it was really interesting.
Yes, and that's it. Like, the west coast of South America is like, people go into Brazil and on that east side, but once you get past sort of Valparaiso, you're going into industrial ports, you're going inland up to the Atacama Desert, or really interesting places. But boy, oh boy, there's not much passenger cruising once you get, say, between sort of Chile, Peru. We go now to a couple of places on the Colombian Pacific coast. Really great stuff. There's a couple of quick questions. Someone asked what my science specialization. It was in the ecology of seabirds, some small petrel species, and also penguins south of Australia and New Zealand. And then the Greece one, there's a few different possibilities. Just this year we went from Istanbul along the Turkish and Greek coasts to Limassol. So there's one example. And good option for someone traveling alone. Yes, because there's this camaraderie, and you can sit by yourself, you can join a table for dinner. It's sort of, there's camaraderie. And even if people travel as a family or a couple, they're often not sticking together, because wants to be out on the bow looking at this, and the other one wants to be relaxing in the library or whatever. So people tend to really find their groove, and often find friends. In fact, even though we're a bit of a fledgling company, over the years, often what happens, people start organising to travel together. They meet friends, and then they go, hey, I've always wanted to go here, and so it does create a bit of a following and a community.
Yeah, I just wanted to say the trip that I was on, there were several solo women, and the crew also really makes an effort to connect women. We had a little get together. We all got to know each other. We sat together. It was really lovely, and the rooms were very nice. And Kelly, maybe you want to talk about that, because we actually, through you, were able to offer some really amazing pricing, and we'll continue to do so for solo travelers as well.
Yeah, I will say that the feeling on board, Jane kind of touched on this, but the overall design of the ships is very contemporary chic. So I would say we're a luxury experience. Like, we have every amenity you want. This is what's so great about us, about Swan Hellenic, that I love, is we give you a down and dirty expedition with like some serious hardware, with the vessels that we use, with less than 200 people on board, and like going out and like whipping around on Zodiacs, taking you to really off the beaten path places for these incredible immersive experiences. But then when you get back on board, we have a very nice spa, a very nice fitness center, a heated infinity pool on the aft of the ship, incredible food. And then the staterooms, I mean, you feel at home on board. You know, a lot of times when you think luxury, it's like very moody or pretentious, but when you get back on board with Swan Hellenic, you feel at home, and it's a very cozy atmosphere. It's all neutrals and woods and metals. And in your stateroom, I mean, practically every stateroom throughout our fleet has an electric artificial fireplace that crackles. Like, they have thought of every design element, and but also functionality. Like, everything is right where you want it to be. The mattresses are incredible. At the end of every single day in Antarctica, I was like, I can't wait to crawl into that bed. It's so comfortable.
I think I saw some pictures of your toes next to the fireplace.
Yes,
Actually,
like
now that I'm
the
thinking about it.
mattresses, like the duvet, it's all so nice. Like, it's so comfortable and cozy. And the staterooms are really spacious. I mean, our smallest stateroom in Ocean View is 205 square feet. Our balcony staterooms are 305 square feet. So it's very comfortable on board. And there's lots of cozy like nooks and crannies all over the ship, from our club lounge, where you can grab a cup of coffee. That's where the most important machine is, the espresso machine. The observation lounge is where all of the lectures take place and all the evening briefings, but it's also where everyone kind of hangs out. There's chase lounges and really comfortable couches, and there's and going back to the technology, there's USB and plugins hidden all over this vessel. So you can go kick up on the chase lounge and bring your computer if you need to and get some work done. Like, it's just such a comfortable atmosphere. And I think like the great thing about Swan Hellenic, where we really differentiate ourselves, is you're getting such a high level experience, but it's completely unpretentious. It's very casual on board. There's no dress codes. There's no formal nights. Like, I would go to dinner and eat a Michelin star quality dinner in jeans and hiking boots and a sweater. That's what I like about it.
Yeah, and that's they've done really well. I remember listening to the CEO talk, because he's an incredible marine engineer, and so that's where the heart of some of this comes. And you know, he wanted to create this feeling where people could just sort of wander around and be casual and feel themselves and feel at home. And I've always thought Scandinavian with a little bit of Italian flair. That's kind of my take on it.
Yeah. And I don't want to forget to mention the binoculars, because those, those became, I have my own pair, but I was literally doing 2 at a time, so that because there were whales and all kinds of things happening.
This is the first rule of expedition. You don't leave your room without your binoculars.
That is totally true.
And
we were sitting one morning, I was writing an article, and I was sitting with 2 of the expedition leaders up in one of the rooms, and all of a sudden we saw about 100 dolphin go right by the window. We all like screamed and ran out onto the side of the ship, and oh my gosh, you just never know, right? What's going to happen.
Absolutely. Yeah. And yes, that's, you know, the people who don't even think they're interested in nature suddenly get interested, because it's sort of you're immersed in it.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Kelly, I wonder if you could speak a little bit about the routes, and because it's interesting also that you could actually just stay, well, literally could stay on the ship like forever if you wanted, because they go around. But could you kind of outline where the ships go?
Yeah. So, I mean, the best way to think about how we operate in a year is Swan Hellenic has all of our vessels down in Antarctica for the Antarctica season, which is about November through March. And then we put all of the vessels up in the Arctic in the north at the opposite end of the world in the summer for the Arctic season, which is about June through September. So they have to get between the poles somehow. So each ship kind of takes its own route, and we slowly make our way up and down between the poles. But so when we're in the Arctic or in Antarctica, since we're there for an extended period of time, we operate multiple departures of the same sailing, but everything in between are unique individual one-off itineraries because the ship is constantly moving along on the next, making its way to the poles. So you have the opportunity for incredible back-to-back itineraries depending on how much time you have. To give you an example, after the Antarctica season, the Vega, one of our PC5 ships that has 152 guests on board, she sails from Ushuaia at the very southernmost tip of South America to Cape Town. And we sail up the entire west coast of Africa in about 5 different itineraries, breaking it up in 5 different trips. So we sail from Cape Town to Luanda, Angola. We take our guests into the desert of Namibia for a night in the Dark Sky Park, certified Dark Sky Park. We sail from Angola to Accra, Ghana, touching the coast of the Congo, going to some bioreserves there that no one else is going to. We sail from Accra, Ghana to Dakar. And then we do a Dakar round trip sailing to an incredible archipelago of islands off the west coast of Africa. And you could essentially, what's that?
They're called the Bajagos Islands, and really difficult to get to. It's funny because I've been working a little bit on how we're going to finalize the itinerary and who's going to go on board, and it's a really good one because it's so unusual.
So we have one ship taking that route after Antarctica, but the other ship is going up the west coast of South America. So Diana will sail from Ushuaia up through the Chilean fjords to Valparaiso. Then we keep moving along. So we're touching Peru, Ecuador, Colombia. We go through the Panama Canal, Costa Rica. So the ships essentially meet up in the Arctic. And then after the Arctic season, we head back down and do the Mediterranean. So some of the really cool itineraries, we do one from Lisbon, Portugal to Palermo, Sicily. Now, most of your normal cruise lines are going to do a Mediterranean itinerary, but we do the northern coast of Africa, which is quite spectacular. We do a circumnavigation of Sicily. And then that's where we get more into the Greek islands, and then coming down through the Suez Canal, touching Egypt and Jordan and East Africa, doing the Seychelles and Madagascar and Kenya, Mozambique, South Africa, and then head back to Antarctica by the time it's Antarctica season again.
And in 2025, the plan at the moment is, because we are launching our 3rd ship again, all going well, we'll be going from Antarctica through what's called the semi-circumnavigation into the Ross Sea up to New Zealand. And then we'll be going through New Zealand, just follow the islands, New Zealand, New Caledonia, Vanuatu, Solomons, New Guinea, Indonesia, Philippines, Japan, the southern more remote islands of Japan, back down, but different itineraries back through Kalimantan and Sulawesi, and then Sumatra, and then over to Darwin and the Kimberley region, then across the top of Australia to Cairns, and then across the South Pacific to the Cook Islands and Pitcairn, and all of those incredibly remote little dots in the big blue southern Pacific Ocean. And so, you know, that stuff. I think that the original plan, I think we went to 2 Japanese islands twice, and there was somewhere else in Indonesia we went twice, and we repeated a Kimberley itinerary. Apart from that, it was 5 months of different places every day.
Wow. I hope everyone's taking notes. I mean, some of these places I have to look up. I'm literally like, oh, where's that?
Yeah.
I want to show some pictures because we put together a few pictures to share with you so we can tell some stories. But before I do that, Kelly, can you talk about pricing? Because I think that's really important to talk about. You know, it may not be the least expensive trip you've ever been on, but I think there's so much included. It can be very cost-effective way to travel. And plus you don't have to change rooms every night.
Yeah, I will say that the value of Swan Hellenic is out of this world. You know, in 2024, we have prices on various departures, some starting from around $6,000 per person and up, I would say. Antarctica is starting closer to around 13,000 per person and up from there. But different parts of the world will have a different price tag. It also depends on the length as well. But with that, you get so much. I mean, once you step on board Swan Hellenic, you're really not going to be paying for anything. It's all included. Starting from, we automatically include your pre-cruise hotel night in the starting city. So that's a minimum 4-star hotel, if not 5 stars, because obviously certain places around the world will not have a 5-star hotel. In certain destinations like the polar regions, for example, we'll even include charter flights. So for Antarctica, we actually include your flight from Buenos Aires down to Ushuaia on a charter flight that we arranged. So all of that is included in the price of your expedition. That's why those tend to be a little higher. And then once you're on board, your accommodations are spectacular. It's super amazing. I mean, our crew, the level of service that they provide, they're calling you by your name by day 2. And even when I'm on board, I'm like, I have never met you before. How do you know my name? They're very impressive, and they will go to all lengths to go out of their way to really give our guests an extraordinary experience on board and make them feel at home. The food is spectacular, super exceptional culinary program on board. All of your food is included. Breakfast, lunch, a la carte, sit down, 4 or 5 course dinners are included. All your drinks on board are included. Beer, wine. I mean, on typical expeditions, they're serving over 30 varieties of wine with 2 different reds and 2 different whites per night, never repeating the options. Cocktails and spirits, all your espresso drinks and soda, juice, all of that is included anytime you want. In the polar regions, all your expedition activities are included. So that will be going out on the Zodiacs or going out on and doing landings with the expedition team. That's all included for you. Of course, we give you the parkas to keep you warm, which is the highest quality, waterproof, windproof. It is truly amazing how warm they actually do keep you. We lend you the rubber muck boots. So for the duration of your expedition, you'll keep your feet dry and warm. Everyone gets a dry bag and a stainless steel water bottle. All your Wi-Fi, it's included. And even in Antarctica, the Wi-Fi was working great. So, and all the gratuities for the whole crew are included. And then outside of the polar regions, say in the Mediterranean or Africa, we include an excursion for you in every single stop on your itinerary. So your experiences each day are automatically included. Those are typically something that all of our guests can participate in. And then we have optional premium excursions that you can choose to book for an additional cost. And that's where you tend to get more specialized, like more outdoors related or more culinary focused. Like that's where you get the more special interest options as well. The only additional cost that you would really ever pay is if you want to go kayaking, which is $250 per session. We do have, of course, our top shelf cocktails and our wine reserve list. That would be an additional surcharge, or the other, or if you want to go to the spa or get the salon, those are, but pretty much the meat and potatoes of everything you need is included in the price.
Yeah. And I just want to highlight the tipping, because I think that can really add up. I know the very first river cruise I went on, I was shocked that I had to pay, it was quite a bit of money, right? And in cash.
And actually there's even more included. We include room service 24/7. We include your mini bar that's stocked every day in your fridge, however you want. Your stateroom attendant will fill it all with Diet Coke if that's what you want every day, or beers or whatever it is that you want. They'll take care of all of that for you too.
Yeah, that's
And
great.
of course, the binoculars we mentioned, there's a pair of binoculars for use in every single stateroom, which is a really nice touch.
Yeah. Well, let's show some pictures quickly, and then maybe you and I will just talk a little bit about our experiences on the ship.
Yeah.
And so this is actually me with the crew on the trip that I was on. Crossing the equator was actually my second time crossing the equator in 1 year, which is crazy, but I also crossed it in Ecuador. Kelly, do you want to speak to these? Whoops.
I don't think that's my picture. What's happening here?
I'm gonna keep going. So this is just showing one of the boats.
Oh, that's what a Zodiac looks like if you've never seen one before. So it's military grade inflatable raft that typically holds 10 to 14 people. And that's how we zoom around these hard to get to places. That is me in Svalbard in the Arctic, which is above the Arctic Circle. Svalbard is like a very interesting place. If you've never heard of it before, I suggest doing some Googling because there are a lot of crazy rules and laws about Svalbard. And this is where the northernmost settlement in the world is. Along the town of Longyearbyen has about 2,000 people. That's where we take start and end our expedition for Svalbard. And it's quite an interesting place because it's kind of independent. Like anyone can go there without a visa to live or work. And it's typically a place where it's all scientists working and also working in tourism. So that in itself was extraordinary, but it's a jumping off spot for Svalbard, and Svalbard was insane. This was from my expedition just earlier this last month. One of the days we woke up and we were like in a sea of ice, and the Zodiacs can actually crunch through the ice to tell you how strong they are. And we were going out through the ice. It was snowing, and we found a lone fur seal out on the ice. And that is the spirit of expedition. It was awesome. Oh yeah, that's me at the front left. That is also from Svalbard. We have one of the things I really love that we do, because this is quite an extraordinary trip, right? We have a professional photographer on board who's always part of the expedition team, who takes and documents every single departure. And they create a video for every guest that you get a copy of the video from your departure and send you a photo album. So this is one of the photographs from the photographer on board.
Well,
that's just kind of to give you an idea of what does it look like? How do you get on a Zodiac from an expedition ship? Because I think this is one of the things people have some like hesitations or a little nervous about, like how would this all work? We have what's called the base camp on the ship, where everyone has their own locker to keep all your gear in, and that's where you get ready to go out and get ready for your Zodiac rides. And there's a big bay door that opens, and we have our crew there to help you on and off the Zodiac to keep everyone safe. We teach you the proper grips to use. And there's always about 3 different crew members helping every single guest get on and off the Zodiacs.
oh, okay. This is me actually. So this is the trip that I just recently did with Swan Hellenic that started up in Limassol, which is Cyprus, and went down through the Suez Canal, and kind of up a little bit into Jordan, and then back down through the Red Sea to Saudi Arabia. And I was there. You can see this is actually the border of Israel. So that's when I was there, right at the very beginning of October. And the pitch, that's obviously me on the left, coming onto the ship. But the picture on the right is my room, which, and most of the rooms are, they're very similar in the style and the appearance, as Kelly said, but this was my very nice room. This is a picture I took of the ship coming back from an island. So we got in Zodiacs, and we went to an island off the coast of Saudi Arabia, which was a really nice experience. And again, something you can't do, I don't think, on a larger ship. And then Egypt and Jordan for me were life highlights, being able to go to the Sphinx and the pyramids and Petra. Oh my goodness. Of course, I had to say JourneyWoman was there. So I brought a little flag with me. And then this was Saudi Arabia. We visited an ancient town just outside of the kind of the city, which was fascinating, actually. It was very hot, but lovely. And then I did when I was supposed to leave, but stayed on and ended up going to the island of Socotra, which is one of those places that few have been. I think this is not my photo. This was one of the photographers on the ship that took this at night. This is my photo. This is a picture of the beach, which again, I've never seen a beach like this in my whole life. That's my picture. That's in the morning. These are dragon blood trees, which are, I think they're found in other places of the world, but very unique to Socotra. And we camped out overnight and woke up in the morning to see the sunrise. It was around 4 a.m. And yeah, these are the kinds of unique experiences that, you know, I'll always remember. But this is the captain of our ship. And I ended up donating to the crew and buying the flag that was at the front of the ship, which I have next to me here at home. And Kelly, on the left, this is the door that you're talking about, where you get onto the Zodiac. So that's our little talk about expedition cruising. And I want to open up for any questions. If there are questions from anyone here that we haven't answered or haven't talked about. Somebody's asking about passengers on the ship. We did talk about that at the very beginning, but it's generally under 200 on these ships, even less, I think, on some.
Yeah, 2 of the ships have 152 guests maximum, and we rarely are ever going to sail at maximum capacity. And then the Diana has 192 maximum. So having these small ships allows us to get into the hardest places, because a lot of the places that we go, especially the polar regions, there's lots of laws and regulations about what the ship can do based on the size, and having less than 200 people gives us the most access to the most extraordinary places.
Yeah. If you have questions, feel free to put them in the chat. We're happy to answer them. I think we've covered off, you know, the only thing I want to talk about maybe is the mindset of somebody, you know, who's the right person for this kind of expedition cruise. It's a little different, perhaps, than other types of cruises in terms of mindset and being ready for the unexpected.
Yeah, one of my favorite things. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I think the 2 things I've heard, the most common things I've heard over the years is I wouldn't normally think about going on a cruise. And I don't usually like traveling with a group, and people get addicted. They really just love it. And, you know, all the things, feel safe, feel comfortable, feel adventurous, and, you know, just incredible experiences.
And I see. Oh, sorry, Kelly, go ahead.
I was just going to say, like, one of the things you really have to go into an expedition with is a flexible mindset. And the first thing our expedition team tells you at the briefing is these are the 3 rules: flexibility, flexibility, flexibility. Because in our world, they have a backup plan, like using every letter of the alphabet.
A, B, D, E,
F. Yeah, and they use it. So there's no set itineraries. There's no site we're going to promise that you can visit. You really have to be open to the adventure.
Yep. I see there's a question around no single supplement. So we've been offering that now for the last few months on several of your excursions. So just make sure you're signed up for our emails, because Swan Hellenic's been very generous with no single supplements, and really amazing pricing, actually.
And we just launched a whole new series of departures with no single supplement that are mainly touching South America, and West Africa.
Yeah. Right. Any other questions?
Someone asked about if there's special pricing on the transit between the pole trips. And I just wanted to say that if you book multiple segments in a row, you do get a discount on the price. So it's typically 10% off.
Yep. There were several women on my cruises that were continuing on all the way to the very bottom of Africa. So, so 2 months, some of them, or they were getting off and doing something else and coming back on, which I found
Wow.
amazing. So yeah, it's a home away from home, really. Well, we have some exciting news to share. We're going to share most of it Thursday night at our holiday social, which is in 2 nights from now. But we will be doing a JourneyWoman expedition with Swan Hellenic in 2024, and this will be for our 30th anniversary. It will be in November, and if you just keep your eyes on your email, you'll get a note on that soon. But I'm very excited about this. I think it is a great way for us as women to kind of regain our sense of adventure, and having been on the ship, I really think it will be a wonderful experience for everyone. So we'll be sharing more details about that in the next few days. The average age, I see one more question. We'll answer that. I think every age, right, Kelly? I mean, I've seen.
Yeah, I would say on some of my sailings in the Arctic, there was 8-year-olds to 80-year-olds.
Yep. Are there children though? I didn't see many children. It was mostly adults.
Yeah, there's not children that often. It's often a Christmas cruise will be when a family chooses to do something.
Yeah, great. Well, thank you all for joining us tonight. I hope this was informative and helpful. And we have a lot of articles on our site about small ship cruising and expedition cruising. So feel free to check that out. And if you do have questions that we haven't answered, just email me at editor@journeywoman.com and we will do our best to get you those answers. But thank you so much, Kelly and Jane, for joining tonight and sharing your expertise with everybody. And we look forward to more to come, right? It's going to be.
Thank you. That was awesome.
Yeah. Lots of fun.
Jane is a great journey-woman.
I
want to go on a cruise with you, Jane, so I can.
Me too.
Well, certainly I've led many trips, and now it's sort of trying to train up the new generation, I guess.
Have a lovely evening, and we'll see you all soon. Hopefully, see you Thursday night at our holiday social.
Okay. Bye.
Bye-bye.